Ever since the driving of the last spike for Canada's Transcontinental Railway on November 7th, 1885, the Canadian Pacific's Kicking Horse Pass has proven to be a vital rail connection linking both ends of the country together. In spite of the line's beautiful scenery in the Rockies, it's also proven to be a challenge, with grades as steep as 2.2%, with the worst section being dubbed the Big Hill, having grades as steep as 4.5%, making it amongst the steepest railway lines anywhere in the world. Operating through the rugged terrain put a strain on the railway's existing fleet of 440s and even 280s, which unfortunately wasn't enough for the railway's demands. They may have worked fine in the prairies, but when it came to the mountains, the Big Hill wasn't for them. And so, in 1909, the Canadian Pacific began experimenting with the idea of Mallet locomotives, in the form of 0660s. Huh. Constructed at the road's Angus Works, the R1As were designed by H. Vaughan for helper service in the Rockies. They had Walschaerts valve gear, weighed 395,000 pounds, 58-inch drivers, a boiler pressure of 200 psi, a tractive effort of 56,138 pounds, a firebox area of 180 square feet, and a wheelbase of 20 feet. Unlike most conventional Mallets though, the front pair of drivers were reversed to have the cylinders facing away from the smoke box, having both cylinders head to head, which was done to shorten the exhaust pipes and have less condensation between the cylinders, both of which were high and low pressure respectively. I gotta admit, it looks pretty fucking ugly. What about the box stacked on the boiler? It was home to the superheater. A few more Mallets were ordered between 1910 and 1911, with 4 R1Bs and 1 R1C respectively, totaling in the number of Mallets to 6 examples. And these two classes had similar specifications, albeit with some minor differences, with the R1C specifically being the only simple compound articulated. The 6 articulated would serve with the Canadian Pacific as helper locomotives in the Canadian Rockies, shoving trains up the steep inclines, usually assigned out of field British Columbia, which was where the infamous 4.5 grade was located around. It was said that they had more tonnage compared to the previous 280s assigned as helpers, which made them not only the heaviest locomotives in the country, but also the only articulated to ever operate in Canada. Who the fuck's calling me? Yo, what's up? Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm working on that right now. Wait, there's another one? Damn. Okay, I'll mention that. So, there was another documented articulated locomotive in Canada. The Canadian Forest Products owned a Baldwin 2662 that was assigned out of Vancouver Island during the 50s. Built in May 1929 for the Weyerhaeuser, the articulated was brought to Canada in 1949 and used to marshal heavy log trains around the Forest Products operations, although it was likely scrapped after the 50s. Anyways, the Canadian Mallet service life was rather short, at least in their articulated form, since due to high operating costs when it came to running them, Canadian Pacific saw no advantage with the use of articulateds, with the R1s being rebuilt in the 1910s into decapods, being reclassified as R2s, and marginally being more successful as transfer locomotives. They would continue to serve with the Canadian Pacific for 40 years, being relocated down to eastern Canada on transfer service, which made them last all the way up until the 1950s, with the last ones being retired by 1959. Alas, none of the Canadian Pacific's decapods survived into preservation. While these Mallets proved to be a short-lived sensation, it does leave you wondering though, why didn't the Canadian Railways ever consider articulateds? I mean, considering that both the CPR and the CNR ran through the Rocky Mountains with steep grades, it only made sense that articulated locomotives is what they needed for those parts of the rail network. There were many successful designs of articulateds, yet the Canadian Railways resorted to Mikados, Santa Fe's, Decapods, Mountains, and Selkirks for use in the Rockies. I mean, I guess it's more so the locomotives they had already worked well enough compared to getting new designs for this type of work. It really made them feel like they were stuck in the 1920s, considering the fact that they were using 10-wheelers for their heaviest types of trains. The contrast between the country's largest locomotives is staggeringly diabolical. If you have any potential theories, let me know down below, and, well, your thoughts. But I guess to close off, it does leave you wondering, though, what alternate universe exists where both Canadian Railways bought modern articulateds.